Hello and welcome. Very excited to be here. I am Heather Bustos, managing partner, and this is the lovely Miss Lisa Capote of counsel with Bustos Law Group. And we are presenting today The Future of Beauty is Here and It's Regulated. We're going to be talking about key trends and compliance challenges. So we're just a little bit about Bustos Law Group before we get started. We are a full service FDA compliance firm. We help companies in the food, supplement, medical device, and cosmetic spaces with everything from label reviews to FDA mock audits, registrations, kind of a little bit of everything. We help clients all along the supply chain. So manufacturers, distributors, importers, brand owners, we do a little bit of all of that. And if you're in trouble, which we hope you never are, we can also help with those things, warning letters, 483s, detentions, all that good stuff. So enough about that. We're going to get started with a little overview of the state of the beauty industry. So I wanted to share the global beauty industry is currently valued at $450 billion with a projected annual growth of 5% through 2030. A lot of you probably already know this. So it's going to continue to grow. It's driven by expanding definitions of beauty, wellness integration, which we're going to get into some of that in our presentation, and emerging markets. So markets outside of the US, Latin America, Asia, all of those places. And this is through this McKinsey report that was just published in June of 2025. So you can see here in the chart, the four main beauty categories that are projected to grow: fragrance, makeup, hair, and skincare. And consumers, what this report was really talking about, which I think if you're in the industry, you can kind of see this trend happening. Consumers want more bang for their buck. They want to justify pricing. They want to see that they're getting value. So we're going to be talking a little bit about, and I think that's going to flow through the presentation. You're going to see how the trends are kind of answering that call from consumers, where they're trying to get the value out of their products, whether it be multifunctional ingredients or just better quality products. So this is a very broad strokes because Lisa's going to dig more into this, and we're going to dig into this throughout the presentation, but some cosmetic innovation challenges. So I broke this down by federal, state, and some litigation related challenges. So at the federal level, we're in an FDA post-MOCRA era. So if you're not familiar with MOCRA, it's the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act. You definitely need to be if you are in the cosmetic industry. This is an act that was passed a couple years ago by Congress. It was the largest sweeping regulation update since the 1938 Food, Drug, Cosmetic Act. This is a massive update to cosmetics regulation and has given FDA some massive power in terms of what they have jurisdiction over on the cosmetic side. We've already seen some of this roll out, so definitely keep up to date with the deadlines, the dates. As of July of last year, you already need to be, the manufacturer needs to be registered. So that's important. If you haven't done that, please go do that. And we're seeing updates to adverse event reporting and recalls as well. And then what we're anticipating is the good manufacturing practices, which was supposed to have already been released, but hasn't been yet. So just keep up to date with that. And then FTC. So the Federal Trade Commission, kind of our angle is on the is on the marketing side rather. So there's been a crackdown on greenwashing, which we'll get into. Greenwashing is basically calling your product natural, eco-friendly, organic. FTC has guidelines for this, and they do issue fines and penalties. And then also they had a recent update to this health products compliance guidance, which talks about the substantiation side of things and making sure that you are substantiating your claims with the right level of scientific backing, right? Next, on the state side, if you're selling in California, you should be familiar with Prop 65 and what those requirements are. California takes it very seriously. So that's really important to be up to date on that. Another one, which actually Lisa and I were discussing just before the presentation, is the extended producer responsibility. And we were kind of chatting about the updates to this and how states, more and more states are coming on board. This has to do with packaging. And basically now the states are putting the responsibility of, financially covering what happens at the end of life cycle with packaging on the producer rather than on the state. So that's something to be made aware of. Deceptive trade practices, this comes at the state level as well. And that kind of leads right into the litigation side, where there's been a rise in class actions. This has been happening over a number of years now. I just wanted to mention some high profile examples, the Clean at Sephora case, and the P&G Herbal Essences Pantene, where they claimed that the ingredients were of natural origin. And the class action basically stated that it was deceptive to a reasonable consumer. So that's just, like I said, a high level overview of some of the regulation at these different levels. All right, so jumping right into the trends, and I'm just going to tell you the way this presentation is going to flow is we're going to talk about a trend, things you may not have never heard of before. Some of these I just learned of recently. I find them super interesting. But essentially, we're going to talk about the trend, and then we're going to talk about some of the regulatory risks and some of the things you can do to avoid them. So neurocosmetics, I just became aware of this term when I went to a conference in Amsterdam in Cosmetics Global back in April. And this was like a hot term I heard all over the place. And essentially, if you're not familiar with it, it has to do with, in my opinion, it's during the research and development process, you're basically focusing when you're formulating on enhancing either skin function or emotional responses. So you're focusing on the mood. So I gave examples here of CBD or ashwagandha, where it's like focusing on relaxation. Scent, we already know that aromatherapy works and does affect, your mood. And so it's kind of focusing your product development on, how do those scents affect the consumer and their the way that they experience the product. And then finally, the texture. So things like cooling gels, gel to oil. The idea is it's creating this user experience. And again, that goes back to that bang for your buck or getting more value out of your products. Now, these are some of the regulatory risks and fixes. So the first one is blurring the line between cosmetics and drugs. This can happen with any cosmetic product, but obviously when you're even the term neurocosmetics, I think the first time Lisa and I were talking about this, even like it kind of goes against what a cosmetic is intended for, right? It's intended to enhance or change the appearance in some way. When you're talking about neuro, that's going a little deeper, right? It's more than skin deep. So because of that, FDA can consider claims about this a drug claim. So some examples I have here are calms the nervous system, protects against environmental stressors, repairs skin barrier. These are things that go deeper than skin deep and can be considered drug claims and not cosmetic. So one of the fixes is just reviewing your claims, right? Having someone who knows and understands the nuances between what a cosmetic claim is, what a drug claim is, and that really thin gray line in between, which in my opinion can be those implied drug claims, and can understand, how to mitigate some risk on that side. Because obviously, I mean, at least in the way I work with my clients is I'm trying to make sure that I'm reaching their goals in terms of marketing, but also keeping them, in the lowest risk category. Next is ingredient safety and novelty. So if you're using ingredients that have not typically been used in cosmetics, just it might have a lack a history of safe use. And so what I would say is you want to have toxicological evaluations. This is something that MOCRA has hit on, is safety substantiation. And so it's important to keep that in mind if you're going down the trend of neurocosmetics. And then finally, claims and labeling risks. So in terms of substantiation, just making sure you have studies to back it up. That might be difficult if you're using, like I said, ingredients that are newer in cosmetics, but it still is important to have that from an FTC perspective. All right, next is upcycled ingredients. This is another one that was all over that conference I went to in April. Upcycled ingredients are essentially where you're taking raw materials that were either waste or byproducts or surplus, and you're kind of transforming those and repurposing them into cosmetic ingredients instead of being discarded. This is going with the trend of sustainability. Some examples: fruit seed peels, coffee grounds. At the conference I went to, they had aquafaba, which is the liquid that's left over from chickpeas, and they made